Hey, you're on the Bible Forum. It's Sunday night, October 4, 2020, believe it or not. Moving right into October. It's going to be Halloween before you know what happens. October's got a lot of good stuff in that. Some really interesting, what do I want to say? Um, Special days. We'll call them special days. Anyway, I'm Warren Sprouse. This is the Bible Forum. It's October 4th, 2020. Are you signed up to receive our weekly rundown of topics? It's a once a week mailing. Of course, this week I mailed 2 times because the first time I didn't mail anything. I got a little carried away. I've done that before. But we'll give you the topics, let you know what's going on. You can also go to the website, thebibleforum.net. Topics are listed there, but not all of them. You want to get that email, just shoot me an email at thebibleforum@gmail.com. Tell me what you want. We don't send out stuff to people. If it's an emergency, if there's something really important, we do. But generally speaking, you're only going to get one email from me a week. That way, you know what's going on, but we're not driving you crazy. Did you watch anything about the debates this week? Nielsen says 73 million Americans watched the presidential debate on television this past week. I had a hard time watching it. I turned it on for about 10 minutes at 9:30 or so, and it just seemed silly to me. I couldn't figure out what they were doing or why. They just seemed to be going back and forth at each other. Not much of a debate, especially a presidential debate. Maybe it got better when I turned it off. But 73 million is about the average over the last 35 years. But we now have cable. 15% watched cable. And those viewers were not counted in the rating. So there's no telling how many of these watched. Probably about the same percentage, somewhere around 75, potentially making it the most watched debate. You see, we don't really watch debates. We don't care, I guess. I don't know. Tuesday's presidential debate quickly devolved into wisecracks, verbal jabs, and all the rest of it. Clearly, both of the candidates are prone to such things, but the moderator wasn't innocent in this little escapade. I was disappointed with Mike Wallace. He seemed primed to knock the president down with questions about Proud Boys and such, implying that there is just as much white racism and radical groups as there are black. We're going to look a little bit at the Proud Boys later on in the show. But clearly all of this came across as a hard sell, given the obvious events of the last few months. What it did do, however, was to abandon debate in favor of one-liners and jabs. Wallace took a lot of heat. He actually went public defending himself. I mean, he's supposed to be the quiet person in the room. He just asks the question and sits back and sees what happens. He was not prone to do that in this debate. Wallace said, are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland? The president rightfully asked for clarification on exactly who he was supposed to be denouncing. After all, he argued most of the violence he was aware of came from the political left and not from the right. Biden pushed for Trump to simply disavow the groups before Wallace eventually specified he was talking about white supremacists and right-wing militias. Now, for his seemingly loaded questions and apparent hostile targeting of President Trump, something that threw gasoline on an already chaotic debate, Wallace has taken the heat, even from his colleagues at Fox News. Biden was quick to take advantage of the back and forth. On Wednesday morning, the candidate's Twitter account posted a video attacking Trump for his response to the question. Are we going to have another debate? Is it going to be just like this? We have a president who now has COVID-19. No telling how long that'll hold him in place. But if we have one, a second face-off, Supposed to be on October 15th. It may go not a whole lot better than the last one. C-SPAN senior executive producer, political editor Steve Scully tapped into. I wrote the word tapped. I have no idea what that word is up there for. Oh, he is tapped. Got some words missing. To moderate the next debate, and that'll be in Miami. Scully's career started by interning with Joe Biden. It ought to be interesting. He shared in an interview how this all worked out. He'll be moderating a debate involving Biden. He said, I came to school in Washington, D.C., went to American University, had a couple of internships. I worked for Joe Biden when he was senator from Delaware at the time. Worked as an intern. So I had my first chance to really see politics up close and personal in Washington. CNN asked a panel of undecided voters in Ohio if the first debate between President Trump and Joe Biden had a clear winner. And to their surprise, only one person raised their hand for Joe Biden. They also asked for a show of hands who thought Trump won the debate. CNN host Ana Cabrera then refused to announce how many hands were raised, and the CNN video crew didn't direct the camera at the panel the way they did when they asked the same question about Joe Biden. Too obvious. And now, officials for the city of Cleveland said 11 cases of the Wuhan coronavirus could be traced back to the September 29 presidential debate. These cases, they said, were the result of debate pre-planning and setup, with the majority of cases impacting out-of-state travelers, particularly debate organizers and members of the media. Isn't that interesting? The president got asked about the Proud Boys. Did he endorse them? When Wallace asked him to disavow white supremacy, which is something the president has done numerous times throughout his presidency and even before. He says, you have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing extremist groups, but are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacist and militia groups? Wallace added, and to say that they need to stand down, to not add to the violence in a number of cities. The president says, I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace. What do you want to call them? Give them a name. Biden said, Proud Boys. Trump said, Proud Boys, stand back, stand by. But I'll tell you what, somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing problem. A man named Enrico Tarrio, who was identified by Sky News as the international chairman of the Proud Boys, told the outlet his group is not about skin color. Tarrio, who himself is not white, told Sky News that he does not view Trump's stand-by comment as an endorsement of his group, and also said the group is anything but a white supremacist organization. In related news, a COVID tension is gripping the Capitol today, especially Capitol Hill, with a report on Amy Coney Barrett's health. We've been called many names, but probably the most inaccurate name you can call us is white supremacist, Tarrio said. I'm a person of color. I'm a brown person. I'm chairman of the organization. Tarrio said his skin color was not an impediment to being elected to his position, adding, I think it was a great moment that we were mentioned on stage. If we were recognized by anyone, we were recognized by Joe Biden. Tarrio said Biden's decision to label his group racist was a critical mistake. He pointed to the group's presence in Portland, Oregon last weekend as an example that the group is not violent. With regard to peacefully assembling, as the group did in Oregon, Tarrio said, we've always done that. We stood back. we stood by in Portland on the 26th, and we had a great event. Basically, he said, I think what Trump meant was let the police do their job. And that's something we have done. Tarrio, who himself is not white, told Sky News that he does not view Trump's standby comment as an endorsement of his group. I think that is the key statement that came out of all of this. Skin color is not the issue, at least for the Proud Boys. During an interview with Pittsburgh's WTAE TV, Biden claimed that the Constitution, quote, says the American people get an opportunity to choose who they want on the Supreme Court by who they pick as their senator and their president, end of quote. Of course, the Constitution says no such thing. Rather, the Constitution allows the president to nominate and, with the advice and consent of the Senate, appoint Supreme Court justices. The Constitution does not give the American people a say in picking justices. It doesn't even suggest that senators have a right to grill potential justices based on their ideology or political affiliation. The president nominates a candidate. If the Senate consents, the president can appoint the candidate. That's it. But the truth here is that every major Democrat, including Joe Biden himself, supported voting on a Supreme Court nominee in an election year in 2016. See, it doesn't violate the Constitution simply because the shoe was on the other foot. When we get into the election series, days, times, we often hear it being called the silly season. Well, apparently Chris Bryan, a member of the Parliament of the United Kingdom, has nominated Joe Biden for a Nobel Peace Prize. As he said, quote, for using the positive power of word instead of resorting to the rhetoric that could lead to violence. A direct jab at the president. Have you ever been to Alaska? Did you ever ride the Alaska rail line, the choo-choo train line that runs through Canada into Alaska? You probably haven't because there isn't any such thing. And apparently for decades, there has been a cry, a complaint, a request, and a pleading that there be one. Well, apparently there's going to be one. President Trump on Tuesday approved a permit for a proposed rail line connecting Alaska and Canada. Presidential permits are required for certain cross-border projects. The other presidents have been unwilling. But Trump sent a tweet on Friday announcing his intention to sign the permit for what is called the A2A cross-border line between Alaska and Canada. The rail link between our state, Canada, he said, and the rest of the country has been a dream for many generations. This is a big win for Alaska and for our entire country. He's a Canadian. The route would run from Alaska's interior region through Canada's Yukon into Alberta. Trains would carry passengers and commodities, including grain, fertilizers, pipe, containers, sulfur, Treadwell said. The line would decrease the time required to move products between Asia and North America. It's a money saver over time. ProphecyNewsWatch.com is talking about a Finnish from Finland, not that it's done, but a talk show host from Finland, who says the Finnish police force is conducting 4 separate criminal investigations against me. In all of these cases, I am accused of criminal agitation against a minority group, primarily for quoting the Bible in a tweet, for a 16-year-old pamphlet, and for speaking according to my Christian faith in a radio and a television program. The most recent case has to do with my views presented in one program of the Finnish Broadcasting Corporation's talk show, a word I can't pronounce, with Ruben Stiller on the topic, "What would Jesus think about homosexuals?" Now, you do know, even here in the U.S., you can talk about almost anything but homosexuality. That is, unless you are approving, unless you are tolerant, open-minded. Then you can say anything. But if you now say anything that someone might feel is disapproving, they will shut you down. You, your YouTube page, your Twitter account, your Facebook page, and they will warn you never to do that again. You say they wouldn't do that? No. They did it to me about a year or so ago, and I didn't say any of those words. I talked simply about what the Bible says, and someone, not from this country, someone out of the country, lied about what I said, complaining to YouTube. And voila, my YouTube page was shut down for 2 weeks. I rescued the video. I emailed it to YouTube, tried to get somebody to watch it. They didn't care. Once someone complained that it insulted them and or made them feel bad, that's all it took. Now, I look at what's going on today with Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and all of these things and the stuff people are putting out. And I got to tell you, I don't think they're going to shut anybody down. But I always am aware that I'm special. The Finnish broadcast in question occurred on December 20th of 2019. In the program, Ms. Stiller said she discussed the Bible's teaching on Jesus, creation of man, sin, the last judgment, and salvation. She said, "I emphasize that all human beings, regardless of their sexual orientation, are on the same line before God, all valuable, but all also sinful, and in need of Jesus' redemptive work in order to inherit eternal life. It is inconceivable," she said, "for me that the program was suspected of being defamatory in any way, at any point." I say, welcome to the new world. An individual citizen, Citizen X, first made a criminal complaint, and the police made a decision that no pre-trial investigation would be commenced. The prosecutor general, however, ordered also in this case, contrary to the decision of the police, a pre-trial investigation. And according to the criminal code in Canada, the crime carries a sentence of a fine and or imprisonment for a maximum of 2 years for saying things somebody doesn't like, whether you really said them or not. And depending on the decision, the prosecutor general said the cases would be handled by court. If the prosecutor general decides to prosecute, it's likely this will proceed for several years. Did you know that the U.S. economy is the fastest growing economy in the world? According to our government, the U.S. economy added 661,000 jobs in September. At the same time, the unemployment rate fell to 7.9. It was 8.4. That's just this past Friday's report. Full employment is considered 3%. At the same time, according to the 2017-18 most recent census data, the U.S. Latino cohort was the fastest growing economy in the world, ranked number 8 in terms of gross domestic product in the world, behind the United States, of course, China, Japan, Germany, the UK, France, and India, major countries. Randy DeSoto, writing for WesternJournal.com, says the chance of adults who are under 70 years of age dying from the COVID-19 is almost zero. That according to the Centers for Disease Control. For those over 70, me, the survival rate is as high as 95%. Now, you won't hear that in mainstream media. Current best estimate for public preparation, 0 to 19 years of age, 0.0003%. If you're 20 to 49 years of age, your chances are 0.0002% that you'll get this. If you're 50 to 69 years of age, it's 0.005% that you would get it. If you're over 70 years of age, it's 0.054%. Mainstream media don't talk about percentages, they talk about numbers. 89,000 people died 2 years ago from the flu. It was never reported. This is different, and it is way more deadly. But look at it. Dr. Fauci's response to all of this, he said the Trump administration has been impressive. He said, I can't imagine anybody doing more than this president and this country. That from realclearpolitics.com. The Dems want to postpone the Judge Barrett hearings because of COVID. Nevada is loosening their limitations on houses of worship. Why? Because the state lost the court case that said if because of COVID you can't have all these people in that room. Sooner or later, sanity is going to prevail, and we're going to stop worrying about everything and finding disease behind every bush. Axios.com is talking about traffic deaths in the days of COVID. Apparently there were fewer cars on the road this past spring, during the height of the pandemic, but traffic fatality rates increased 30% in that second quarter, as evidence suggests drivers engaged in more risky behavior. Traffic volume fell 16% in the first half of 2020. Traffic deaths fell just 3%. Apropos of absolutely nothing, but for those of you who live in South Carolina, especially in the Charleston area or maybe around, the word on the street is that Boeing is leaving the state of Washington. They're going to move their major property buildings business to Charleston County. The county just extended their option on 10 acres of land near the plant they already have, which is right adjacent to the airport. And I honestly didn't think there was enough land out there. And this week, as I was driving around, I took the back road around the airport, and there's a lot of empty land out there. Wouldn't it be neat to have Boeing in South Carolina? Sure would help. According to a new study, ProphecyWatch.com tells us the average American is filmed by an estimated 238 security cameras every single week. If you live in the country, the number could be less. The study was authored by something called Safety.com. Their security team found that the average American is filmed by security cameras more than 230 times a week, a number that has increased rapidly and is only expected to continue as facial recognition technology is being pushed throughout our entire society. The average, factoring in the country boys and girls, then the 238 number is low. Of course, they might actually be exaggerating, but I doubt it. CNBC reports that there will be an estimated 1 billion security cameras filming around the world by 2021, with somewhere between 10 and 18% of those being in the United States alone, not counting cell phone cameras. When calculated on a per person basis, this is the second highest ratio of security cameras to the population in the world. CBS reported in 2019 that second to China, the U.S. has at least one security camera filming for every 4.6 people, compared to one camera for every 4.1 persons in China. The research is based on something called IPUMS, time use data, and spread out over the course of an average week. What was revealed as staggering, however, is that an estimated 238 times a week each person is recorded, according to the study. Oh, and reality has finally struck Portland, Oregon. After more than 100 nights of unrest, Democrat Oregon Governor Kate Brown has decided to declare an emergency for the city of Portland. She made it clear, however, that she was acting only because the Proud Boys had said they intended to hold a rally in the city on Saturday. That was yesterday. The Proud Boys were planning an End Domestic Terrorism demonstration, despite the city's rejection of a permit for the event. Have you heard of the Proud Boys? We just talked about them. They're a bunch of politically conservative roughnecks who would probably knock you down if you hurt their feelings. Their membership crosses all genetic and social lines. But don't you cross one of their lines, or you may need medical help. Governor Brown is wise to avoid a confrontation with these bad boys. That's it for the rundown this week. We've got some more stuff to talk about when we come back. Encourage you to stick around. We're going to talk about the mark of the beast. Stay with me.